unless you're living under a rock, you already know that the housing market is extremely slow. We are in, I think, the tail end of this 2.5, 3 year depression. Could it last a couple of months? Certainly could. Is it going to be over soon? I think so. But we're going to give you some tips on what you could do to be a buyer in a slow market. Beth, lots of stuff going on today.
Yeah.
What's an idea or tip you have for buyers in this market?
Yeah. So first of all, I wanted to mention that these last 2 weeks of August, always slow. So particularly slow this year, possibly because it's been a little bit slow leading up to it. And it's all over the news nationally, at least. Of course, you got to know your local buy box, but this market is the slowest it's been in quite some time, according to those who are writing these articles. And there's a few things we could do to take advantage of these last couple of weeks. It's sort of the last hurrah. A lot of people are going out of town. I know they are in the greater Seattle area where I operate. And there's some opportunities here. There's been a lot of chatter. Maybe it's wishful thinking, but that it might start turning a corner. I know, having been doing this for decades, I know that the slowdown tends to be kind of gradual over time, and then the rebound tends to happen more quickly.
Yeah.
So does that mean we're rushing into bidding wars again? I don't think so. No, not anytime soon. But is this a good opportunity for someone to make some good investment or home ownership moves in a down market? Absolutely. So a few things I wanted to mention about that. So things that people can do. So we're in this channel, we like to talk about actionable steps. So like you can obsess about the market for an eternity if you want to and never take any action. But ultimately, we want to try to get people off the sidelines and taking action, purchasing investment properties, right? So one of the first things is to look for the longer days on market. New listings, very unlikely you're going to get. People want to see if they can get more before they automatically go to taking less. So they need to be worn down over time. And you also need to see who's done meaningful price drops. So for me, I would say, first of all, for days on market, I would say minimum, in my market, I would say minimum 30 plus, ideally 60 plus.
Sure.
Before you start really thinking about, is this somebody who's really motivated and would take a lower offer? I think that if they've done meaningful price drops, that's somebody that indicates that maybe they are more of a need to sell than a want to sell, because we are seeing a lot of people who are not motivated or don't need the money or don't have to sell the house. Just be like, maybe I'll take it off the market, try again next year or whatever. They don't particularly care if they keep the house or sell the house, those folks. So, but there's some people that need to, and that's a lot of who's out there right now. People who are moving for a job relocation, people who are retiring out of state, they already bought their next house, people who maybe it's part of a divorce and they have no choice but to sell, an estate sale, things like that. So those are the folks. And if they're doing meaningful price drops and they've been on the market for a while, that indicates motivation. So I see some where they might do like, we're taking after 30 days, here's a $5,000 price drop. That makes no difference at all. I'm talking about at minimum 5% of the purchase of the list price off. Ideally, more like a 10% drop indicates more motivation. And we are seeing that here on certain properties. You'll see these ones where they're coming down 100,000 or more, in an area where the median is over $1 million. So that, and sometimes it happens in increments over time, but you want to see that they're making meaningful moves to come in lower. And then look for, go ahead.
I was going to say this is all great advice, because again, what you're trying to do in this market is this is a buyer's market, right? And as a buyer, your job is to put the best deal together you can. And what you're giving people is actionable steps or signs to look for. And I think they're awesome, right? Know your buy box, know average days on market. If the average days on market is 30, start looking at 45 or 60. Look for the price drops. The other one I like, it's a little harder to do and it takes a little bit more time, but look for properties that have gone off and come back on the market, right? They went pending and then they came back for whatever reason. Buyer didn't qualify, you just never know. Inspection reports could be all kinds of things. But typically what I've seen happen when a property goes off the market, comes back on, that seller is extra motivated because they've already cashed that check,
Yeah.
from the first escrow, and they're highly motivated in many cases.
Yeah, and that person may have primed the pump in a way too, because maybe they already had a lower offer accepted, and so mentally they're already at that number. It's extremely disappointing to make plans and then have those plans dashed when the deal flips and you're back on the market starting over with a black mark against you, because even if it is no fault of the home or seller, it's just now it looks like something what's wrong, what happened, why, And when I ask a listing agent that, the answer is always like it was the buyer, it's literally never the house, but anyway. But the other thing I love is bad pictures, no prep. So if somebody didn't clean up and you see their toothbrush and laundry and, all that dirty dishes and stuff, or even clean dishes sitting out on the, that, at least in my market, people expect shiny, staged, beautiful. And if it doesn't, and they're going to raises the perceived value when people are looking online. Then you see one where it's like, oh, there's junk everywhere and they didn't clean up the house. That's going to lower the perceived value. So we're not talking about investors here who don't care about any of that. We're talking about homeowners, or people who are imagining themselves living in the home. They think, oh, this home's worn out, dirty, not well cared for. That's what they think, whether it's true or not. So I love the bad photos, whether it's what's in the photo or the photo itself, where it's like some blurry, dark, cut off, something just bad looking. You can get a better deal just from that alone, even though that has nothing to do with the house or property.
The next one for me, again, just knowing the Seattle area, obviously Thatch Nguyen is big in Seattle and Seattle proper. But you can also look for value add opportunities, right? He obviously likes the house, non-HOA with a big lot, so he can add ADUs. This is the time as a buyer to be aggressive on those, because again, in a hot market, those things will be gobbled up quickly. In a slow market, buyer's market, where people are not doing the work and the discipline, you can really get a screaming deal, right? Because you can get, quote unquote, a lower price on the house that maybe it's in poor condition, it's an estate sale, and the seller doesn't even realize that the lot changed and there's $500,000 in value in just the dirt.
A lot of times people do not know that, especially since there's a law in Washington that just changed not too long ago, where different municipalities are implementing the change where they have to accommodate for ADUs in most places, not every place, but most places. So the value add for the ADU, all the rage. So that is definitely a big one. The other value add I like is kind of a little more simple. If people don't want to necessarily build right now or deal with that, look for something that maybe says 1 or 2 bedrooms. Usually it's more like a 2-bedroom, but there's 1,200 square feet. I know, there's got to be space for a 3rd bedroom in there somewhere. If it's that size, if it's an 800 square foot house, you're not going to get a 3rd bedroom in there. But if it's 12, you probably can.
Probably, yeah.
So
I love that. That was a big strategy of mine. You're right.
Yeah, and oftentimes it might even already be there, but just like it doesn't have a closet or something like that. There's a fallacy out there that it has to have a closet to be a bedroom, and maybe it does for certain, but not really. Appraisers don't need it to have it anyway. You can add a closet, no problem. So. Or turn a den into a bedroom, or sometimes you convert a basement and put 2 bedrooms down there. I mean, there's things you can do, or convert an attic. Depending on what you want to take on, but the easiest is just if it's a 1-level home with that 1,200 or more square feet, or even 1,000. Sometimes you can squeeze another bedroom in there and increase your rent considerably, and the value too, because a 3-bedroom house is going to be worth a lot more resale than a 2-bedroom house. So that's a big one. One caveat there: if you work in rural areas, be aware of septic provisions for adding another bedroom. I'll just put that out there, and I won't elaborate on that. But still look in good areas. Like you can go broke buying cheap, and so if this is a buyer's market, that's all the better reason to look for the better deals in the good areas. Because when the market turns, those good areas are going to be the ones that turn first and most.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So if we're seeing opportunities in good high rent areas, focus there. This is the time to pick up some good. I've seen them around, so I know they're out there.
Yeah. The other thing to tell people in buyers markets is ask for the moon. Get 2 or 3 points of credit, closing cost credit, so you can get the rate buy down. Ask for the repairs. Ask for a credit for the repairs. In a buyer's market, and it's really hard for people to realize after having a seller's market for the last 3 or 4 years, they just don't understand the power they have today. Mm-hmm. So not only, understanding how to write prices under list, but ask for everything. Ask for the credits. Ask for the repairs. Ask.
Yep. And there's ways you can do it without alienating the other side too. So I know if I feel somebody's coming at me and being rude and coming at you with a sledgehammer, you're less likely to get, it's just human psychology. You're less likely to get what you want. Mm-hmm. But there's ways you can come at it where it feels like, hey, this is where we can make it work for me and for you. And here's what I need. And it just is what it is. Yep. And then you're a lot more likely, like, let's find something that works and get it all done. And sometimes you have to give a little bit on your side too, maybe accommodate their closing date or something like that you can do, leave some junk, whatever. That's one of my favorites, things like that. But finding out about the seller situation is really key for that negotiation and to seeing if it's even a viable option, because if it's one of those ones where it's like, if they don't sell at this price, they're just going to keep it. Rent it, whatever. We want the people who are the must sells. You got to determine that by having that conversation. Don't just send over the offer with no conversation. That's one of my peeves. Like you got to do your homework and make sure you understand before you come out there, and know that a text is not an offer too. A lot of investors will send me these texts and that's not an offer, guys. Has to be a real offer. But the last one is just be patient and persistent. I know you talk
follow up. Mm-hmm. Yes.
Until they take it off the market, or even after that, maybe sometimes, or it sells, something to stick with it until something happens. Eventually something's going to happen with that house. And sometimes if they take it off the market, they might bring it back later, or who knows, you might be able to reach out to them off market in 6 months. And maybe then people's situations change. And at some point it becomes a priority. And you just want to be the one that's top of mind when that happens.
Yeah, what might be a want to sell today can very quickly change to a need to sell, and you want to be first in line. Again, folks, every time I've written a disrespectful offer, I've never gotten it the first or second time. Millions of dollars in equity cash flow has been made with follow-up. Just put a tickler on your calendar and follow up once every 10 days and either sell it to someone else or take it off the market, right? It's just how it works.
And somebody finds another house or something, they get very motivated all of a sudden.
Yes.
Or something else that they need those funds for, then they get motivated.
Absolutely. So, Beth, where can people find you?
Yeah, BethTraversogroup.com. I'm easy to find if you Google my name, and I'm out there in the school.
Very cool.
So people can
she's inside school. Yeah. Give her a chat. And again, if you're looking for a referral to another top 1% agent across the country, Beth Traverso is willing to do that for you. So reach out, send her a note in school. Thank you.
Thanks.